All right, I hear the music toning down, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome all to today's webinar. The topic today is driving business agility with a no-code rules engine. So in terms of an agenda, well, I'll do introductions here in a moment, then we'll talk a little bit about Tangentia, a little bit about decisions and this application around, what is a no-code rules engine? Where is it used? What are the good applications to think about toward applying this? Then we'll see a bit of a demo and then have a question and answer period. So with that, I'll begin introducing myself. I'm Gordon Jones, the COO of Decisions. I've been with the company for 7 years now, and prior to that, I was a customer who had built a product and a company on top of the Decisions platform, sold it to a private equity company, but fell in love with the product and came to work directly for Decisions. And with me, my colleague at Decisions and Toronto Maple Leafs fan living in Toronto is Akshay. And Akshay is a senior sales engineer at Decisions. And with me, a couple of partners from Tangentia. And Vijay, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself, and Ashwini.
Thank you very much, Gordon, and really, the premise of this meeting is I think something that everybody's going to really think about. Something where we're saying rules engines can run companies better. And I was telling people, this is the hypothesis of today's meeting. Allow us to prove to you that, yes, if you get a rules engine in your office, I mean, this was, robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, all of these are buzzwords. But I think one of the key, elements that can hold an enterprise together is rules engines. And I'm really pleased to be here. My name is Vijay Thomas. We're also very pleased to be partners of Decision. We truly embrace the philosophy of Decision rules engine, and especially no-code rules engines, being an important part in a company's IT infrastructure. With me is Ashwini Hegde. Ashwini is our practice head, intelligent automation, under which the Decision rules engine falls as well. And we're really excited to be here, and I think it'll be a great discussion. And Gordon, with your wealth of experience, and I think the audience is going to learn a lot today.
Yes, absolutely.
So a little bit about Tangentia. Tangentia, we're the technology for the autonomous enterprise. And if you look at our logo, you'll see we're sticking our neck out and saying future is autonomous. We truly believe that the North Star, the guiding principle for us at Tangentia, is the autonomous enterprise. This is something that we believe is not, something that will happen immediately in the next few months, years. It'll take some time, but I think collectively as a world, as in the enterprise, the companies, we're all moving towards the autonomous enterprise. And I think, there's lots of technologies that are happening, lots of good things happening, and this is all going to come together with an autonomous enterprise. We believe that a company of $1 billion can potentially at one day be run by one person. So that's where we're going to. We've been 20 years in existence. We're more than 300 employees. We have around 13 Fortune 500 customers. So we not just appeal to small and mid-sized companies because, somebody once asked me, what's your elevator pitch? And I said, our elevator pitch is we can do everything Accenture can do for cheaper, better, and faster. So we get them on all three vectors. And, so it not just appeals to small and mid, but also it seems to resonate with large companies. And we have our own platform. And on our platforms, we do more than $13 billion in revenue. That's e-commerce platforms, EDI platforms, and things like that. Next, a little bit about our partnerships, certifications, awards, and recognitions. Partners right on this impact dialogue that we're having. We have Decisions. We also are partners with Microsoft, a couple of the other names out there. We're platinum partners of IBM for the last almost 20 years. So we've been in the depths of technology. We've seen technology evolve. What we are seeing evolve right now is the move to low code, no code. And that's where, we've partnered with some of the best of breed, low code, no code partners. And I think Decisions is right up there in terms of seeing the world from the no code lens. The gone are the days of programmers sitting in dark rooms and writing programs that only they knew what they wrote, because sometimes there was not even any the documentation. But in the new world, a lot of this programming is no code, is configuration. If it's low code, it can almost be written by business people. So a lot of the programming is in English. I think this is the big difference between the programming of the yesteryears and the programming of today. And we're truly invested in this. Also, the Tangentia, we're certified, so you get all the good stuff with Tangentia that you would like to have from an enterprise consulting company. ISO 27000, ISO 9000, SOC 1, SOC 2 certified, all of that good stuff. We've also hit a few high notes in terms of recognition by some of our partners. It's also from some of the analysts. We're on Zeno Jones. We're also on next slide, please. We're also this is something that makes us very proud. We're on the 24 on the Forrester's Robotic Process Automation Landscape Report. So we're one of their robotic process automation partners, companies that they've put across there. So essentially, we've cut our teeth on delivering projects in the autonomous enterprise space, and we've also made it to some lists. So definitely, we'd love to talk to you guys after this as well. But I want to just tell you that we've really understand this business very well, and can deliver. Next, please. So something about the Tangentia Decisions partnership. Very unique to us is, as Gordon said, he's been 7 years at Decisions, but he's also been working at Decisions, on Decisions products for a long time before. Tangentia, we've been 20 years in existence. So this is not something that started off just a couple of years back. We've been fine-tuning our craft, making sure that we've understand business very well. We've been doing this for 20 years, and Decisions as well has been doing this for quite a number of years. We have industry focus, industry expertise, especially retail, CPG, banking, financial services, insurance, healthcare, life sciences. We have around 25 people in our Decisions team at Tangentia, and we also have process mining, so we understand process very well. We also have a fairly large team on robotic process automation, and probably a similar size team on generative AI. So all of this coming together, and we'll talk about it, really creates magic. And it's magic that sometimes magic brings up connotations of it only happens once, flash in the pan. No, this is magic that can happen always. It can happen for you. You just need to follow the cookbook that we're going to prescribe today, and it's going to work out. Next, please. So some of our service offerings, professional services, obviously we can come in, put this thing together. Platform migration, you have decision rules. Some people might tell me has been around for a long time. Yes, there have been decision rules. People have written scripts. You have some older engines, but do you have a modern no-code rules engine? Now, we think, if you even have logic written scripts, or actually an actual, rules engine, you still should consider a modern day rules engine. And then that's where, the platform migration service is important. Some of you might not have rules. You need rules. If you already have rules and you have some way of managing them, we will tell you how this can be done much more easily. And then once you've got all of this in place, you need to manage it. And that's where our managed services comes in as well. We help keep the lights on, make sure that everything's running 99.9% uptime, and all that good stuff that people expect. Next.
All right. Well, all right. Thanks, Vijay. So again, a bit about Decisions. We were founded in 2010. Our co-founder is the CTO, and this is actually like round 3. So the founder has been involved in business process automation for about 25 years now. We're headquartered in Virginia Beach, but we've got offices across the globe, 300 over employees. We've been profitable since 2015. We are in 80 plus service delivery sales partners in 21 countries. And we have almost 300 customers in 21 different countries. So I guess the first question is, what is Decisions? Decisions is an intelligent automation platform, and the core strength of that is the rules engine. Vijay was talking about the autonomous enterprise. I like that. And when you think about it, to automate uh, your business processes, it all boils down to automating decisions. If this, then that. If this happens, then I want that to happen. And fundamentally, business can be boiled down to a series of decisions that you're making throughout, and we help automate those. So in addition to the rules engine, we have a workflow manager, a process mining tool, a no-code integration builder, as well as interface designers. But today, we're going to focus on the rules engine and talk about why you need one and where it can help. The first thing that I want to point out is, where do these rules live? And the truth is, if you look at software development historically, right, you have the user interface, and typically, even with web-based applications, the user interface is written in technologies like JavaScript, like React or Angular, HTML, and buried in that code can be those if then else statements, right? There can be logic that's buried in the user interface. Equally, logic can be in the application that's typically running on the server, and that can be written in C#, Python, Java, or any of the other programming languages out there today. And furthermore, logic can live in the database. So you may have SQL queries that exist or stored procedures that sit on the database. Even some of this logic can be in tables that are sitting in the database themselves. So when a business person wants to change the way the business process is working, it may take a lot of investigation to even understand where does that rule live? Where does that piece of logic live? Furthermore, each piece of that logic, so the user interface, has its own DevOps process, right? You have to first isolate, okay, we want to change something that lives in the UI. There's a different development team that manages the UI, then does the database, then does the business application logic. Then there may be a list of priorities that team has and a timing sequence whereby which these changes can be made and pushed out into production, right? And dependencies. All to say, and you've all lived through this, where even when you want to make a change, there might be some reasons why it has to be delayed, it has to wait. And as a result, it becomes hard and difficult to make changes, and you lose that agile approach to, in the world of business today, the clock speed that business is running at is just faster and faster. And sometimes the difference between organizations can be just the speed with which they can make changes to their business process. So what's the answer to this? What a rules engine does is it centralizes this logic and takes it out of the UI, out of the custom code, out of the database, and it puts it in one location that's a graphical, so easy for subject matter experts, business users to look at, understand, if not edit and maintain themselves. So you have one DevOps cycle, you have a graphical user interface, and it's a way to separate decision logic from the code such that subject matter experts can edit and maintain this business logic. Again, using a set of graphical design tools to make those changes. And at Decisions, we have the largest set of graphical designers of any company in this space. You see here a truth table, which looks similar to an Excel spreadsheet where you can have inputs on the left and the output that you want defined on the right. Easy for subject matter experts to look at, understand, edit, and maintain. But different problems sometimes benefit from a different graphical interface. So we have another graphical designer called the matrix rule, which is the intersection of a row and a column. Certain problems lend themselves to this type. And we have, as you can see, several other graphical interfaces to make it easy for end users to understand how the rules work and to make changes to them. We're going to talk a bit about rules engine in insurance. So if you think about where a lot of rules live, there are certain use cases, applications, verticals that have a lot of rules. So think lending or loan origination, think insurance underwriting, think insurance claims, healthcare claims, areas where you've got lots of rules and they change regularly. We have one customer, the city of New York, that manages all their rules around the Department of Social Services. So things like eSNAP program or food stamps, unemployment benefits, all of these things, the change year to year. Every year there's new legislation. They have to update, change these rules, and by separating it, you make it much easier to change. So maybe this can also be best thought through a real world example. Some case studies were very heavy in insurance, both medical insurance and traditional insurance is probably our single largest vertical. So both in underwriting, pricing, you can look at some of the customers that we have, the core insurance systems, as well as claims management. One customer, Ameritrust, they have a number of lines of insurance. You can imagine property and casualty, things like even pet insurance. All of these have different rules governing who's a candidate. Different states have different rules around what sort of policies can be offered from one state, one country to another. So that it's lots of rules, and within a rule engine, you can again consolidate all of that in one place. And Ameritrust is using it as described earlier, where they have rules that govern forms that are on the UI where prospective customers are filling out forms. So when they want to make those changes to the form listing rules, form validation rules, rating rules, it's all separated, centralized within the decisions rule engine. Okay, why decisions? Again, comprehensive rule engine capabilities, as you've seen. The other thing I want to point out is that typically these use cases run in very demanding applications. So sub 100 millisecond response times required. We also get involved in like credit card fraud rules. And when you're swiping a credit card, that transaction needs to run through a rule set at hyper speed to ensure you're executing the rules as quickly as possible. So our rule engine is tuned for enterprise high performance. We can integrate with anything and everything. We're used to doing with that. A typical insurance company actually has 14 different application systems of various vintages over the years. Sometimes there's mergers, acquisitions, and insurance companies today end up sitting on a lot of policy admin systems. And we're designed to fit into any cloud architecture and the systems that Vijay has described earlier. So with that, it's been a lot of talking, but at this point, what I'll do is turn it over to my colleague and Toronto Maple Leafs fan, Akshay, who will walk us through a live demonstration.
Yeah.
So with that,
Thanks.
I will stop sharing and turn it over to you, Akshay.
All right. Thanks, Gordon. Just a quick check if you guys can see my screen all right.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So what we're going to do is give you a sneak peek and a quick demonstration of a rule engine that we have built in Decisions. And I want to lay down that Decisions is an industry agnostic tool. So you can be from the healthcare, life sciences, insurance, finance. So we cater to all the industries because at the end of the day, we are a toolbox and you can create your own rule engine as per your business context and your rules. So what you're seeing right now is the Decision Studio, and this is the place where we build those things. Now, as Gordon mentioned, there are different kind of applicability of decisions. You could be automating your business workflows, or you could be creating no-code rule engine inside Decisions. And we do that on this side of the platform. So we can build our workflows, the rules, the forms, the reports, the integrations, and all of them are done without using code. And everything we build in Decisions is with the help of a graphical user interface designers, which are represented here. Now, when I click on Create Rule, what it shows us are all the rules that Gordon mentioned on his presentation. And each of these rules have its own applicability. So if you're trying to do something that's simple as if and else, we would use a statement rule. if we are trying to have an Excel-like structure, having columns coming in, and we have a designated row as the outcome for that column. And these are the 8 different types of rules that we use in decisions to build a very complex and a robust rule engine that you can use in your application. And each rule has its own applicability of why we use it. And I'll be showing you how these rules look like, but on a high level, this is the place where we build things. Now, once we have created those, rule engine type applications, there are different ways you can trigger those rules. And in this example, we would look at an insurance claim use case. At any insurance industry, there would be claims coming in, and they would be running some, hundreds and thousands of rules in order to assess if we should, approve that claim or reject it. So this is just a quick demonstration of how are the different ways we can trigger that rule engine built-in decisions. It could be triggered via UI. So for example, you might have a form which connects to the backend rule engine, or you can trigger decisions via API endpoints. And it can look something like this, where we get the endpoints that trigger decision, you pass in the body type, and decision returns back with the output that your application might use. And then you can also schedule jobs in order to run those batch processes, which may run midnight every day or at some different time or different cadence that you can set up. So there are various ways to utilize the rule engine which is built in decisions. Now I'm going to show you, how we manage rules when they're built. For example, in this case, again, it's an insurance example. And these are the different rules that the analyst or the business users or the rule authors can manage by having a UI wrapper like this. This again is created in decisions, 100% drag and drop. You can have your own customized UI in order to see what you would like to see and expose to the end users. And what this part of the dashboard shows is all the rules which are running in the system. And what it allows the authors and the builders to see is, what's the rule name, when it was created, who created them, when it was last modified, what kind of rule that is. So it is a good way of having a repository of your rules. If you ever want to go back and see and make some changes, this is the place that can be exposed to the end users. Now they can always go back to the studio and make those changes, but this is just an additional way of exposing the rules and what's more relevant to them as a business user. Now, all these rules can be controlled from here. For example, if I just do a quick right click, I can see different things I can do here. One of them is to see the history of this rule, different iterations it has gone through over time. And I can see which all workflows or rules further depend on this particular rule. So this kind of helps me to understand everywhere this rule is being used. And I can always edit this rule. Now, when I do edit, it takes me right into this statement rule designer, where you can see that this is the logic for my rule in this case, where I'm checking if the police report is needed to process that claim and if we have received that report. So this is how you set up those rules, and then you can have an output which you can further use down the system of deciding whether to assign that claim or not. Similarly, the rules can get a little complex. So if I close it back, I come back to the place where I started, and a complex rule may look something like this, where I have a nested conditioning, and those are combined by and or logic, where I can put these statements and I receive the output, which will help me to decide what to do with this. Now, the goodness of this rule engine is the output of one rule can become the input for the subsequent rule. It kind of helps you to drill down what needs to be done as the process is moving through the claim process. And another example that Gordon also mentioned on the presentation is what we call as the truth table. And this is the rule designer and how it looks like. So what you're seeing here are basically some columns and the rows. So the columns here represents the header. So the light blue banner here indicates the input which is coming into this rule. So we are checking, what's the insurance plan that this person has subscribed to, and what's the type of instrument that they are, claiming for. And so this becomes the combination of input for my rule. And this dark blue banner represents what's the output I'm going to get. So it's going to give me the amount deductible for that claim. It's also going to tell me the processing fees. So each row will have its own combination, and I will get my own output. So this is very easy to manage over time. If I ever want to add more insurance plans, more instrument types, all it would take me is to add a new row. And this can also be automated in the sense that the source that you're seeing here, the data that's being represented, can come in from an Excel file, or it can also be plugged in from a database. So that database will become the source for the information being used into this rule. So every time you want to add or delete something, the only source to change would be that database, and it would automatically reflect that in this rule engine. And other quick example is of the expression rule. So when we are having these decision logic and built-in decisions, it definitely helps us to take different paths, take different decisions as we move through, but also let us do very complex calculations. And we do that with the help of our expression rule, where you define your own formula, and this becomes as a global step. So you can use this in as many processes or as many rules that you would like after defining and providing it one time in the rule designer. And if you notice here, all the rule designers that we have comes with its own debug option. And you can also set up input and output data, which basically helps us to test through the logic that we have and make sure that when we start using this in production or in our main application, it satisfies all the possible scenarios that can occur. So, and this is one of the best features that I like as well, how we can test everything that we are building at the building stage. And some other key points to note here is that when we are running these rules and decisions, we always keep an audit history. And all the use cases that I've worked on that pertains to rule engine, that's a key and a core element for them. Because all the businesses would like to know, when we ran a particular transaction and we took a certain decision, what were the rules that got triggered in the process? So what you're seeing here are a couple of reports. The report with this little icon on the left indicates the number of transactions with the ID that I have run my rule engine through. And this report tells me, what was the overall outcome of that execution. So you can see it told that the claim was processed, this was the claim amount, and the reason for that. And this right here tells me all the rules which got triggered in a process at the time and date, and what was the rule criteria and the individual output for that rule. So having that, always helps when we want to go back in the past and see why did we take certain decisions on a certain transaction. Similarly, if something fails, it will also reflect, why did it fail, the transaction or the outcome was claim denied. And we can also see that that was a particular rule that helps us to deny that claim process. And when we are building these rule-based application decisions, everything gets saved, whatever we would like to save, and then it just becomes a matter of what do we want to report on. We can have claim metrics having and telling us what's happening to our process over time, and how much important KPIs are reflecting with time. And we can also see the rule matrix, which tells me all the rules which I have in the system and how my system is performing, how many applications I'm processing every day, how much approvals or denials or those ratios are. So this kind of helps the business users not only manage their rules, but also be able to track the performance of what's happening in the overall system.
Akshay,
Would like to
if
add?
I may, I think there's a question, is there a limit to the number of rules within rules, nested rules? I think I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, there's no such limitation. So, when we are building these rule-based application decisions, they're fairly complex, and we build enterprise level applications. So there's no, limitation on the nesting you can do. And there are very smart ways of optimizing the whole logic by combining different type of rules that you use and come out with the outcome that you would need. Yeah.
Thanks, Akshay.
Yeah,
But Joshua,
yeah, I was
Joshua,
going to
a customer
also,
of ours, I kind of know who is asking the question. So Joshua, if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask us. You got the best people in the business here, and we definitely love to answer all the questions. And got an over to you.
yeah, I'll also say that there's no limit. Some of those tables can get incredibly large. We've had rule tables with over 10,000 records and rows. And so with the search capability to find a specific rule and understand, we also have methods to determine if there's duplicate rules or overlapping rules. Given the number of these rules, it can be quite complex. I'll also point out that a lot of clients do what we call A/B testing, where you might have certain rules that you're splitting What's common in lending and insurance is it's a continuous balance against like revenue and risk. So they're always tweaking to try to change the rules to either grow revenue and reduce risk. And it's a balance that the lending world and the insurance world lives with constantly day to day.
I think Joshua's got another question. Just a little background on Joshua. We've been talking to Joshua for some time. Joshua has a lot of experience in a lot of industries, but he's cut his teeth in the airlines business. So Joshua's question is, have any of Decision's customers implemented scenarios to backtest the rule against events which occurred? If yes, if you can share that.
No, absolutely. In fact, backtesting is something that's done, if not constantly, regularly. So as part of this rule tweaking, what's common in let's say loan origination is they want to attract some more revenue, let's say, and open up a certain rule, change a certain rule. Then they want to understand, okay, what would that change have made to the applications that we've had in the last 2 years? How many more approvals would we have given? So yes, absolutely. The whole platform and system is designed to backtest old data against a new rule set, and it's part of the regular use case for having a rule engine. And I will point out too that what Akshay described is another benefit to the rule engine is that whole audit trail. So you can understand not only the history of rule changes, but the execution of how a specific set of rules executed on a given case on a given day. And that's important in the medical space, in financial services. So it's the whole idea behind this audit trail.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Akshay, and thank you, Joshua. If anybody else has any more questions, please feel free. We have a fantastic panel here, and we can get to the bottom of this. And there's lots to be discussed. Yeah. With that, I think we'll go to Ashwini. Ashwini is the head of Tangentia's automation practice, and at Tangentia we have a little bit of a methodology of how we implement, autonomous enterprise solutions, including rules engines. And Ashwini, if you can, it's a little bit from the trenches kind of story of how this gets done. I mean, and I must tell you, it's not difficult, but it's not a walk in the park as well. But once you've got you've done it a couple of times, you have a methodology, you know how to do this. We think it is almost a walk in the park. But over to you, Ashwini.
Yeah, thanks, Vijay. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I think Vijay pretty much said it. So this approach has been tested and it has worked fantastic. So I would like to present that. So basically, POCs are done to evaluate the technical feasibility of the solution we propose for your problem, and also to see how we can measure the return on investment. So our POCs, what we do, are typically for a duration of 3 to 4 weeks. So it can also depend based on the scope we take for the POCs and the complexity of your process. The POCs can vary, but typically it's 3, 4, 5 weeks types. So in week 1, we would be doing the scoping and the infra setup activities. Now, scoping would include, we talk to your stakeholders, understand your pain points, understand your requirements. So in week 1, we would be understanding the requirements, the pain points on your process and what actually needs to be automated. And then we finalize the scope, document the scope. We put a wireframe as to what comes in first, what comes in next, and we get that validated with the customer. So all of this happens in week 1. In week 2, we actually build the POC using the decisions tool. We actually set up the assumptions, some assumptions, the success criteria, and build the POC. Now in week 3, we demonstrate that POC back to the customer. So we validate whatever we have built, whether it is right or Are there any more rules to be built in, more screens to be built in, more forms to be built in? All of that is being validated in week 3. Plus, if there is any feedback from the customer, we take it and we incorporate it and show the demonstration back to the customer. So all of this can be done in 3 weeks of time. Now, there are sometimes the customer wants to actually see and use and feel the POC. So in such cases, so there is a sandbox environment set up with the decisions tool, and we can provide the instance so that the customer can actually try hands-on. After this is done, then comes the road mapping and the planning exercise, where we completely study the process, we establish the functional requirements, we come up with the estimates, the cost proposal, timelines, and the regular road mapping activities, which happens in week 4 and week 5. So that's how we kind of build a POC. Now, let me take one example, very quick example. So let's say employee onboarding to an organization, right? So we want to make sure that when an employee is onboarded, from day 1, he or she needs to be productive and need to have access to all the systems related to the work. For example, let's say email account needs to be created. Your Azure accounts need to be created. Your SAP access need to be set up. Your Salesforce access need to be set up. So all of this, understanding the requirements, understanding what the current status is, all of this, we will do it in week 1. Now, in week 2, in this example, we will actually build you the rules engines. For example, if you're a band 1 employee, then these are the set of SAP access which you need to have. And once you have access, it needs to go for an approval. So let's say if you're another band employee, you also need to get access to Salesforce. So all of this, gets built in week 2. Now, we show all of this in week 3 back to the customer. So probably there is a dashboard which says how many are pending, how many are onboarded, all of that can be shown. So this is what I wanted to say. So it's going to be like 3 to 5 weeks of approach. So if any of you are interested in taking up the POC with us, please feel free to reach out and we'll be glad to do that along with the decisions team. So I think that's it. Gordon, back to you. Vijay, back to you for the Q&A.
Thanks, Ashwini.
All right. Thanks, Ashwini. And
Thank you.
we will now, I think we have some questions that have come up. We'll start to get at those. Let me see here. Here's a question that's come in. Interesting question. How do you see rule engines evolving with generative AI? Interesting question. And I have been thinking about this a lot lately, and we have an example of a project we're working on where the answer is a little counterintuitive in that, I mentioned earlier that rule engines need to execute quickly, and they need to be audited and have an audit trail of the rules and how they were executed, all of which right now, like generative AI, does not do, right? So when you want to control your business, you want to understand what rule was made and why, and what were the factors that went in. So for the short term, I don't see a change to the fundamental need to have a rule engine. Now, what we have found interesting is that we're working on a project whereby the client has an old rule engine that was hard-coded, and the ability to extract the rules from the code is a lot easier to do with generative AI. So we've had success using generative AI to extract rules from code such that they can be put more easily into the graphical user designers. So it's an interesting twist to how generative AI is helping the rule engine story. But honestly, it's early days for generative AI. So we'll have to see how things progress. but that's the first real world use case in making it easy to move from an old platform to a platform like Decisions using generative AI in the middle. Okay, here's another question. The question is, lots of industries that are rule heavy, like insurance, tend to have lots of legacy applications and RPA. How does a rule engine play in this environment? There's two parts to this, I would say. And the first is around legacy applications. And I would say, half of the rule engine deployments that we do are actually replacing a legacy rule engine. And what typically happens is the rules start to hit a level of complexity where all of a sudden they're afraid to change anything because the code base gets so big that they are never sure they're changing the right rule in the right place. And they share with us examples of they've changed the wrong rule and then things execute and it causes problems for them. So the existing rule engine hits this level of brittleness where nobody's afraid to touch it. The guy that programmed it retired, and this is a common theme. So we regularly get involved in situations where we're converting an old legacy rule engine application to Decisions. The second part of that regarding RPA is this is a very interesting use case in terms of a lot of companies utilize RPA bots. There's a lot of, especially in healthcare, even insurance, where there's a lot of legacy systems out there that don't have open integrations. And our clients are finding that having a rule engine to govern the orchestration of these bots is easier to edit and maintain and change than trying to build that logic within the RPA itself. So even no code, if you just have a string and series of if then else blocks, can get incredibly complex. And what our clients find is that having our rule table and our graphical editors, it makes it easier to understand the logic controlling the bot as such that they want that rule to live in Decisions and not within all of this complicated RPA code.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon. There's another question here, and this is Joshua. So this is Ashwini. To your, is it 3 to 5 weeks for one decision only during the POC period? So let me kind of, it's not one, but it's one process, which is a lot of subsets. And again, I think what Ashwini was giving was a reference architecture or reference methodology. It depends on a scale. Like if we are going to change an enterprise within an insurance company and they have multiple processes and multiple rules, it will be a longer process to do that. There may be lots of but in a general enterprise, if you want to take one set of the rules that constitute a process, usually if it's not that big an enterprise, we're saying in within 4 to 6 weeks you can have things up and going. So it is quick, it is no code, so you can have that going. So Ashwini, I just wanted to kind of answer the question, but Ashwini and then Gordon, if you want to add as well.
No, I think you said it right, Vijay. So it's based on the process. And in a POC, we generally don't take the whole process. We try to address your main pain point, probably three, four steps in a process or 3-4 sub-processes. In the example which I gave, like onboarding an employee, maybe let's say access to email account creation, access to SAP, access to Salesforce. Probably these 3-4 things can be taken up in that 3 weeks of time. But yes, if you just like to see only access to Salesforce, then probably it can even reduce. Or if you want to see a couple of more, it might as well increase. So, yeah.
And then other question Joshua had was, and Gordon, sorry, if you want to add anything to this from a how long does it take to do this thing? Like, how would be your thoughts on? And you guys have done some very big projects as well. So, what do you think?
I think it's actually very quick to implement. So in the same period that you can conduct a POC to validate, you can actually go live in that same period. And we frequently stage these go lives. Like we've been working on a big project with an insurance company, but yeah, 1 month, 2 months, you can go live with like one business unit and then slowly move on. So you don't, it doesn't have to be a big bang. You can automate one part of the process, one set of rules and decisioning, and then move on to the next. I did see a question here on can rules be applied to any verticals or any project cases? And the answer there is absolutely. Now, most of our business is in financial services and healthcare, but we have government examples, we have manufacturing examples. We have a large mining company that uses the rule engine to clean data from 35 different data sources. So they set up data cleansing rules, and they have data that comes in from GIS systems, from government databases, from all sorts of, and they run that through the rules to put it in a data lake. So it's a good. They're constantly adding and changing data sources, and it's an easy place to do like master data type cleanup activities.
Mm-hmm. We have another question here. Joshua's question is, am I implementing rules in real life? Am I implementing rules that can be on the fly? So I think, Jordan, you want to take that? So, so this is, the rules can be on the fly. And I think as Akshay showed us, we can actually make those changes, and it can be on the fly and done by business users. So I guess part of this question is, as an engine is running, can you do it, or do you have to bring it down, or how does that work? And Akshay and Jordan, it can be done by regular business users. It doesn't have to be programmed, but do you have to stop a system, or how does that work?
I'll talk briefly in that this is very common for business users, subject matter experts, to own, edit, and maintain the business logic. There are technical methods to deploying it such that without the system going down. More commonly, you would have what I'll call like a traditional DevOps, where you make a change in a development environment, you promote it to a test environment, and then finally to a development environment. And if you have a clustered production environment, there are ways to do this to maintain uptime, but there's also ways in a more traditional deployment.
Yeah. So essentially, you still, you need to have those checks and balances, but it's not
right.
But it's only because of checks and balances. It's not a technological need for that. You want to make sure there is some governance, but it could be quick. It doesn't need to be programming. It's done in that layer, and then
Right.
just make sure that it is just transferred across. Hope that answers the question. We have another one here. Okay, sorry, Akshay, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, no, I think Gordon summarized pretty well. So all I would say is, when we talk about changing the rules, there are different layers of changes that can be done. If it's only about changing a threshold of a policy, then it might not really have to go through the whole, SDLC cycle. The business users can be provided with a simple CRUD UI, which they have access to the rules. And if it's slightly more, then they might go back into the dev environment, make a change, test it, and then move to production. So it just depends, what kind of changes we are exposing to different users involved.
Thank you. We, I think, have 5 more minutes. But Gordon, if we can just move to the next slide, we'll still continue the Q&A, but we'll not miss the slide about how, if any of you want to get in touch with Decisions or Tangentia, we got 2 people there. We got the handsome Joe Gusick. Joe is the strategic account manager. Joe's email is out there. We got Ashwini there. Ashwini's the practice head. You just heard her speak. We also have some of the offices of Tangentia. We have people in each of these places, and you can get in touch with us. We would love to come in, understand what you guys are working on, some of the problems you might be having. There's also the truth table. I want to kind of talk about the truth table a little bit before we went to the questions. Gordon, in the old days, how is it different from a cross-reference table? Like, in every business, there are these tables. And I know a company that we went and we kind of did a whole digital transformation. And there was a lady called Annie. But they're just saying Annie. I'm not giving away her privacy, but she worked in a warehouse, and she was the only one who knew how the warehouse worked. And she wrote all of her notes in a little book, and everybody called it Annie's Bible. So I kind of think this is the same. So is that is my understanding of the truth table the same?
I guess yes. The short answer is yes, Vijay. So the whole idea is, rather than having these things sit in somebody's Bible on their desk, that you're centralizing it such that everyone understands the rules that govern the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then and only then can you change and optimize those rules to achieve business results. I had one last question I wanted to cover that came in regarding integrations, and the question was, can you connect to external APIs or legacy systems that require custom integrations beyond pre-built connectors? The answer is yes. So anything with an open API, we can access directly. We also have a no-code integration builder. And for situations that may require custom code, we have an SDK. So a C# development house could craft custom code and utilize our SDK to connect to some obscure data object if needed, for example. And again, with that, if you'd like to learn more, if you'd like to proceed with a proof of concept, please, again, reach out to Ashwini. She'd be happy to start the process with you and answer any additional questions that you might have. So with that, I want to thank Vijay, Ashwini, Akshay, and all of you for attending today. And if you want to learn more about rules engines, please reach out and we'd be happy to talk.
Thanks a lot, Gordon. And I think we're ahead of time. We got everybody 3 more minutes back to you. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining in. And we're going to have more of this. So follow Decisions, follow Tangentia.com. We have impact dialogues every couple of months. And today was, can decision rules engines, run your company better? I think we've kind of proven it. Yes. If you haven't considered it, consider it. And, we would love to work with you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.